Welcome again. I wanted to start this video with a joke, but we are talking about Fury Warrior, so who are we kidding? This whole thing is going to be a joke. Anyway, I said in my guide that I would go over Warrior's itemization and sensed even before releasing it that many people would want detailed information about items. I'm going to showcase you how to start from scratch, how you can prepare yourself for ICC, and undisputed best in slot items from ICC Heroics, and later on Ruby Sanctum as well. It's very hard to pinpoint every player's struggles with their items based on what kind of raids they play and how lucky were they getting them. So having that in mind, there are gonna be 3 scenarios for this video. Scenario number 1. Your character is very fresh, not ready yet for ICC of any kind. Scenario number 2. Your character is in decent spot, can farm ICC normal bosses with some easy heroics. Scenario number 3. Your character is usually in high-end raids farming heroics. Let's start with the first one. Either you just made a warrior or you have a long lost alt with outdated items. Your primary goal is to farm dungeons. Now of course, you can get decent upgrades, especially in stronger ones like TOC, FOSS, POS, and HOR. Our goal here is to get plenty emblems of Triumph. They're gonna form as good base where we will slowly but steady get geared for ICC. I understand not every player is in lucky position where he can squeeze in his low warrior in guild run ICC 10 man and just get a huge boost every week. So this scenario is gonna be considered without that luxury. Nevertheless, I advise you to try to get into some alt runs before reset. Even 3 to 4 bosses in both 10 and 25 is a good chance for some emblems and maybe even loot. Now that we farmed a lot of triumphs, these are our options. First, let's go over set combinations. Usually building warrior in any patch is going to be 4 set bonus with 1 out of set. Even if you get a small upgrade in stats from some random set pieces that bosses drop or vendor, you should never lose 4 set bonus, as those stat changes from one item don't match the set bonus in DPS. In this case, TOC 2 and 4 set are going to be huge upgrade for your damage. If you are wondering about trophies and when you should save up for them, let's go like this. For example, you have chests from last boss in Heroic Boss. You don't really need to buy default 75 emblem version, you can wait until you get trophy. But if you already have one set piece, I would advise you to just buy normal rather than sitting and waiting, maybe a couple of weeks to get trophy. We have one option with 4 set piece and hands out of set. The hands you want to have here are Anup 25 man plate ones, or the very best second choice are leather ones from faction champions in 10 man. I will go over difference in plate, mail and leather items importance detailed later. The second option is head out of set from Onyxia 25 man. The stats on these options are very similar, so it's up to luck where out of set items are gonna drop for you. Unless you farm TOC 25 Heroic and you can get Regalia marks. In that case, first option is better. We can give honorable mention to male legs from Anubarak 25 man and plate ones same boss but 10 man mode. This is only if you can compensate expertise with off-part items. Speaking of off-part items, let's continue the build with them and their best choices. For neck, we have the very best option from beasts in TOC 10. If you could get this heroic version, it would be perfect. Similar normal version of this neck is actually one from Maligos 25. If you have key to make some achievement run, or it's just weekly quest perhaps. And the much more easier option is vendor neck from Ulduar patch, where you will have to buy emblems of conquest. We get pure DPS stats from them, but if you need hit rating for your build, 25 man choice from Twin is solid. Of course, if you can get your hands on it since it's boy. Moving down to back slot where we don't have many options. You are most likely gonna look forward for Might of Nerup and try to do tribute around 10 men for that Prebis armor pen back. When we consider wrist, waist and boots, goal is to get combination of damage and necessary stats like expertise or hit to add up on our already base that we set up earlier. Depending what drops for you and what you need for stats, this will be the best combination. Also, let's take in consideration if you are orc and you have double butcher, which is gonna allow you to swap out either wrist or waist for more damage oriented setup. In that case, we are going with mail or plate wrist. They go very well into build since you most likely won't have issue with missing a lot of hit rating for you to consider the leather one with it. The lower version option is plate belt from 10 man because of that non-important haste stat. Since I mentioned butcher, let's see what you can do for weapons. Of course, axes from faction champs is gonna be best. Next, it's from 10 man sword again with the haste, but you don't really have many choices in general for this gear situation, as anything remotely decent comes from tribute chest. If you can somehow farm tribute chest at least from 10 man, this axe is gonna do just fine even though it has hit. If you are very unlucky with the weapon drops, and of course, first of all, you need any kind of stick to hit those bosses in TOC, use any option from dungeon drops. The crafted blacksmithing mace is good temporary filler and even reputation one. Don't forget about Onyxia as well, and if you farm that head I mentioned, you should look forward for the sword. Again, you have to start somewhere until the best in slot axes drop. For ranged weapon, anything you can get your hands on. It's gonna be tough to get the good stuff, since hunters usually have prior. But don't forget about the 25 emblem option at vendor. Finger slots are easy to fill with good choices. I think by far best option is gonna be these two from 10 man. Even if you are good with hit, you can remove maybe 1 point in talents and just satisfy your needs. Other ways we can go is from 25 man, both strength and agility option, but with lower priority since that haste stat. The next solution are the winter ring or just have anything from dungeon drops that you've gotten. Bit of Saron ring is very good and I would suggest that you farm it every day. After the TOC 10 rings, in my opinion, best one of the choices. Save the most interesting for last and quite a big topic. Trinkets after weapons are in my opinion most important for Furies. We are sitting on 8% hit, 24 expertise that we can gem it up for soft cap. We have almost 36% crit and around 600 armor pen. As I said in my guide, once you hit approximately 900 base armor pen, you should start gemming armor pen. So having that in mind, let's go over Banner of Victory right away. I think this trinket is great, especially when you are very close to armor pen cap, and you should always prioritize to have it until you get more upgrades someplace else or upcoming ICC and RS bis armor pen trinkets. Of course, if you have no other option, having it is more than fine. So considering this first warrior out of 3 in the video and our current armor pen, I would actually not go for it. I will have to go by standard that you probably haven't played Uldor, forcing me to put those items out of limit for this build. That choice is going to be your best option, trinket that is very hard to get, as almost every melee class alongside Hunter will want it. This item would fit our mainly strength attack power build perfectly. The very next and quite similar one is Darkman. The combination of these two is utterly best, where we get insane amount of power for big percent of uptime. When they both proc, combined with Deadfish, maybe Bloodlust and Potion, your DPS will increase drastically. Next on the line is Scorpion from POS. I always think of this trinket as gear score boost or simply you're homeless and it's only thing you can wear. even though it has 45-second internal cooldown. From my experience, having it on many characters, proc rate is clunky. Sometimes I would wait for ages to proc again, having low percent uptime. Nevertheless, having crit as your base stat and armor pen on proc is going to be fine second choice. I would only suggest to combine it with one of the previous two trinkets, and it's because of our less good optimal choice. Mirror of Truth has 30 less crit than Scorpion, but on procs gives us 1k attack power. Good thing about this trinket though, it's farmable with emblems, so you can have really decent piece on your warrior if you're super unlucky with raids and dungeons. Why I don't like combination of these two is because you are sitting on an RNG roller coaster with crit. Even though 4% is good amount, I'd rather have more attack power than crit. Of course, this is only if you have all the options and need to decide what to run. So I would say this is how you should combine based on what you have. To mention some of the worst choices you can go for, and I see a lot of people being desperate or just being gear score street ladies. We have the vendor hit rating one with attack power active and expertise one from 10-man TOC. When I make raids and people come in for inspection with this, if I was constipated by any chance, they would help me. I highly doubt you will need this amount of hit and expertise to make your build shine. On top of that, item active cooldowns are too big. You should always keep in mind to avoid active trinkets or trinkets that their base stat is not purely damage. Okay, so right now with this setup we are sitting at around 5.2k gear score. Depending on server you play and requirements, I think this is best in slot scenario for you to get into ICC 25-man normals and farm ICC 10-man with potential easy heroics that would increase from week to week. Let's go quickly over gems. As you can see, hit rating is perfect 8% with 1 point spent in talents. Now expertise is lacking 1 gem slot. Armor pen is 650, which is still not favorable for us to use gems on armor pen. As I said in guide, until you reach approximately 900 base with items, strength is the way to go. So that is what we're gonna do. Relentless on meta, and we can put Nightmare tier to proc it, plus this head slot gives most bonus. Make sure to put 20 strength on each slot and not try to proc these bonuses, as having max 10 strength in combination with some random stat and the bonus of 6 from item is not equivalent and worth to pure 20. Only exception is if you need expertise and hit. To finalize the first version of Warrior is BOE topic. Now since we are talking about ICC patch, I would not recommend buying any boss from earlier patches unless you literally do not have anything on your item slot. This is gonna be list of items worth mentioning. Very worth to have. Sometimes I would find myself wearing this neck on my melee characters all the way until one beast comes along. I would not suggest buying it ever, since this item is usually very expensive and haste is not what we are looking for. This is a good item and should be very worth purchase in case you're super unlucky with wrist drops and wearing something very low. If you get these ones, you're most likely gonna sit on them with pure damage stats in mind. Until ICC 25 man were very similar drop on Lady Normal and beast ones on Heroic until Ruby Sanctum. In my opinion, it is only worth if you can afford it, since you're gonna have many options for boats all around raids and dungeons. Same concept goes for leather ones, but if you're missing expertise to finalize your build, I would say it's worth it. Even though stats on these ones are so good, They're usually very expensive, and I think it's just not worth considering the fact that you will do VOA every week and try to get your set ones, which are basically this. But if you're swimming in cash and overcapped on expertise, you can go legs out of set and take these ones. Should be very cheap and good purchase that you won't regret. You have only one good option and by far the best investment you can go for warrior in terms of boas, and that's already mentioned Darkman greatness. The mace is gonna be very worth, especially if it's not too expensive on your server. That should be it for our first version of warrior, and I just wanna add, what should you do from this point on? Try to find a group and farm weekly 10-man tribute chests. The armor pen back is very good, you will not change it for a long time. As I mentioned earlier, you want to squeeze in some Ultrons 10 and 25 men in ICC each week. Once you're in this stage, you should always look for well organized, solid, and consistent groups that will farm full normal every week. Same goes for 10 men with few heroics that your group can do. What I would advise you to do with Emblem of Frost is to sit on it for now. Do not buy legs, especially because of VOA farm. Do not buy off parts yet. You want to prioritize head and chest first. When you have enough to buy them, having 2 set bonus from tier 9, aka TFC, and 2 set from tier 10, aka ICC, is gonna be fine. Next time you want to use elf is for shoulders and legs. Otherwise, do not break set at any cost. Start saving up gold for primordials, as making that Shadow's Edge is going to be the next best investment for your warrior. I was debating between making one whole video and dividing it in 2 parts, since this one is already almost 20 minutes, as the second part is going to be most likely same. So this time I want to keep it shorter and see how it goes. Any feedback in comments is greatly appreciated, as I'm making second part already, so I can implement some of your good ideas right away. See you soon.